Let's start with this image. I'm going to crop it and just try to get some of the background gone. I'm just using my crop tool. All right, I'm going to add a little bit more space here and put her in the center. I'm going to do that one more time because I want to make sure that the content aware is on. So I'm just going to repeat that crop, bringing her to the center and down a little bit, and then content aware, and it's going to fill in that for me. All right, so I use the marquee tool to kind of elongate hers. So I take the marquee tool and hold the shift key down and I stretch it out and then I let that go and it kind of lengthens it out. Let's see, we're going to go to liquefy and I'm just going to shape up her body and her hair and things like that. All right, so we're going to go to reconstruct and I'm going to minimize this a little bit and take down the effect about 80% maybe, then 90. And then maybe do a little face and push OK. I have so many actions. So normally when I'm editing an image, I just kind of go through and just kind of figure out exactly what I want to do and just play with some of the actions that I have. I do want to make sure that her skin looks nice. Her skin is very clean. She's very young. So I'm just going to run a retouch action, and it basically selects the skin and just smooths out any kind of blemishes and things like that. It's a really great tool just to do it really quickly. And there's some other things that comes within the panel. Once it is fully ran, you can kind of see. So we have, like, for the lips, the teeth, some contour, highlight, the eyes, and things like that. So I'm just going to go in and kind of see what's happening here. So I'm going to select my brush and make sure that my brush is on white. And then I like to do the lips and the cheeks the same, so I'll just brush it on and change the opacity to about 20%. And then contouring and highlights, and sometimes I will use the blue or the green iris, which makes their eyes pop. It's really nice. And then I'm just going to add some blush to her cheeks using the lip tool, and just brush it on there, and about 20% still. It's a really nice color. And I like to use the contour around the shadows, just enhancing the shadows, and obviously taking down the opacity on that. And then depending on if the highlights are too low, I'll do the highlights, but I think that looks nice. I'm just going to kind of brush off some of that contour on that highlight, just kind of get that off. I think that looks really nice. All right, I'm going to flatten that. And then we're just going to move on to kind of finishing out the image. Let's see. I have so many actions to choose from. And like I said, I just kind of play around to see what kind of look I want. And then I'll just go from there. If I don't like it, then I'll delete it and then I'll do something else. So it just really depends on kind of what I'm feeling with the image. So we're going to clean up the backdrop just using my patch tool. And I would suggest, if you have a large kind of workload and you have images that you need to get done quickly, outsourcing your editing to a editor is really beneficial. I actually do that with mine. They will fix backdrops and any kind of seamless paper or any kind of backdrop that I shoot with. They will clean that up for me, and then they will do some skin retouching. It's not a lot of retouching. It's a very minimum, because I like to have a little bit, I have control over that. So typically I'll send those off and I won't have to do the tedious work like is the backdrop or the skin, and then I can just do the styling type of edit that I like to do. It makes my workflow go really, really quickly. So I'm going back to my actions and just kind of see if we can clean up the backdrop a little bit more. Soften the shot is really, really nice. It actually is what it says. It softens the shot and makes everything really kind of creamy. Sometimes it's a little bit too much for it, like the skin and the details. So what I will do is I will just brush it off of the subject, and the backdrop will be nice and clean. There's so many different ways that you can do this, but if you, like I said, if you have a heavy workload and you need images edited quickly, outsourcing is your best option. Okay, I think that looks nice. Let's go back to, I want to crop this because she's leaning a little bit. So let's tilt it just a little bit and straighten her up. That looks tons better. And the content aware is just going to fill in the sides and make it look really nice. So this is before and after. All right, so here's the second image. So we're going to start with cropping the image to get the background kind of solid here. And like I said in my previous edit, sending this off to an editor is what I typically do. It just saves me the headache of having to do all of these things that take so much time. So I'm going to start with the patch tool, and I'm just going to patch this. There's so many different ways you can do this. But if you don't have any actions, if you don't have anything, these are your options. Also, too, if you have an updated version of the Photoshop with the AI, you can do generative fill and it will fill in your backdrop. But this is the old school way of having to fill in the backdrop and all those things. And I literally just do this. If I have to do this, I will do it this way. So I'm just patching it. All right, so I'm going to extend this with a crop tool, and I'm going to stretch out with the marquee tool. I love doing this with fabric. Just grab the marquee tool and stretch it out, holding the shift key down. All right, that looks pretty good. Let's take the marquee tool, and I'm just gonna elongate the bottom half. So sort of doing the same thing. This really helps kind of stretch out the image. So that's before and after. All right, flatten that image, and I'm going to go to liquify. And what I like to do is take a large brush and just kind of zoom out the image first, and then take a large brush and just start moving the fabric, and sort of like a flow kind of position of kind of what I was envisioning it to flow like, because sometimes the fabric does not like to flow the way you want it to flow. So I just manipulate it in Photoshop and liquify. All right, so we're going to kind of shape up around the belly. Her belly was pretty small, so I want to make sure that it's defined nicely, and I just shape out the belly, and I even accentuate it some. All right, before and after. Okay, that looks nice. All right, so I think let's go and see if we can clean this backdrop up. Let me try this first. I want to see what this looks like. I think that's pretty. Before and after. That looks nice. I'm going to delete it for now, and then I'm going to work on the skin first. I'm going to run this action like I did before. All right, so I'm going to go to my layers and start using these. There's not really much that I'm going to do because I like the way the light is falling on her face. So I might do a little bit of contouring, but I think the highlights are fine on this particular image. Let's give it just a little contour. Deepen the shadows just a little bit, about 20%. A little bit of blush, about 10%, just a little. And I think that looks nice. We're going to flatten that. And now we're going to move on to, let's see, okay, so the underwear underneath here, let's go ahead and patch this up. I just take sections and I patch this and I fill it in. And typically it does really well. And then I just make sure that I just clean up all the little spaces. All right, so we're going to flatten that and then we're going to move on to our backdrop. So I have some actions from LSP. It's the Camden textures, and I use them for a lot of my images, and they just are really, really beautiful. So I think I'm going to try one of those. And so this one is soft and sweet, and I'm just going to do about 45% on that one, and then we're going to do the backdrop. So I just run the action, and I really like, there's one that I really like. It's really, really pretty. It's the Painter. Yeah, I really like that one. I just run that action, and then I'm going to stretch it out and push OK. And then I'm going to kind of brush it off of my subject. I'm going to take it down to about 75% and then use my brush tool on the skin layer and just kind of brush it off of her skin because I don't want any of that texture on her skin. Before and after. I like that. That looks nice. All right, so I'm going to flatten that image, and then we're going to crop this a little bit more. Give her a little bit more room. And clean up some of these little spots right here. Sometimes the texture can get a little bit and just trying to remove some of those dark spots. It seems really shadowy right there. All right, and just crop this down a little bit so we can stretch it out with the marquee tool. So I'm just going to select that, free transform, hold the shift key down, and then just pull it down and then let go. And then you can just click off of that. I just love how it makes her look so much taller and just flying. It's beautiful. So we're going to go to liquify and just kind of pull some of these dark spots away. So I'm pull away, and then I get a really big brush, and I'm just going to kind of liquefy some of this fabric up and the backdrop out. That looks nice. Before and after. And then I'm just going to kind of get in here where the dark spots are, the shadow right there, and just kind of pull that away to lighten it some. Just trying to check all the spots. Looks really nice. Before and after, and push OK. It looks really nice. So just a last little crop here, just so she doesn't have a lot of floor. And then I'm going to click off the content aware so I can stretch it out with a marquee tool. I use the marquee tool a good bit. It just makes my images look just flowy and beautiful. It's one of my favorite tools. All right, so that's just going to be before and after. Okay, so here is my third and final image. So we're going to start with liquefy. Image is actually really nice as it is. I'll just kind of liquefy a little bit, maybe do a little shadowing and some highlights, but for the most part, this image is really, really nice. Just trying to give her hair just a little bit of movement. By the third look, her hair started to get a little bit looser, and she was sweating a lot, so she her hair started to, the curls started to fall out a little bit, but I'm just kind of bringing that in just a little before and after. Reconstruct and just kind of lower this down to about 85, and I think that looks good. Push OK. And let's see, I'm going to kind of adjust the crop here just so I can get her in the center. Don't want to cut off too much. And then I'm just going to use my marquee tool and stretch this out a little bit. Free transform. And push OK. That looks really nice. All right, so let's duplicate the layer, and I'm going to use the spot healing brush to kind of clean up some of the spots on her feet. And when I run the action, that way those are not showing through. It's just really helpful. But her skin was really nice, so I didn't have to really do a lot of skin retouching. Just a few little blemishes. All right, that looks really nice. It's going to flatten that image, and then we're going to run our retouch for the skin. And push continue. Go to our layers, and we will use a few of these options. We will start with the lips using my brush, make sure it's on white, and we'll just do a little bit of the blush here and the lips. And then take down the opacity to about 20%. Contour, just a little bit on the cheekbones, then under the neck there, and then around the shadows. Then we'll take the opacity down to about 20. And highlights, just kind of touch where the highlights would be. Just kind of brush those on. And then we'll change the opacity to about 20%. That looks really nice. I like that. We'll go to the blue eyes and then kind of bring those eyes out a little. There we go. Beautiful eyes. I think that looks really great. So we're just going to flatten that, and then let's see what else we want to do. duplicate the layer, and I'm going to remove this shadow on her knee. It's just a little bit too much. So I'm going to use the patch tool. I'm just going to select that shadow, and then I'm going to go to edit and fill. Now this will make it kind of look sort of weird. So I'm just going to change the opacity of that layer to where it's just slightly less noticeable on the shadow, about 50%. That looks really nice. So I think that looks great. Flatten that, and let's see. All right, I want to try this one. I typically like it, but sometimes it makes my images green, so I don't really like to use it very much. So I'm just trying to change the opacity and see if I like that. Just don't want her to be green or anything. I think I'm just going to delete that one. Let's try this lovely base. It's by Kelsey Freeman. And see what that does. Sometimes the tones just don't look as good. Let's see, 20%. That's not terrible. That don't look too bad. I think I want to flatten that one. So just flatten and sharpen, and I think that looks really, really nice. So this is before and after. Very nice.